High General Dak stood on the bridge of his massive command ship, looking at the holographic display of the sector. His tall figure cast a long shadow as he moved around the glowing map. The Talon Empire's symbol, a sharp-clawed bird of prey, marked hundreds of conquered worlds. Another day, another civilization to add to our glory, Dak said, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the displays. Scout Captain Munn approached with a data tablet. High General, our long-range scouts have discovered a new inhabited system. The dominant species calls itself human and their planet Earth. Dak took the tablet, studying the images of Earth's cities, vehicles, and orbital stations. Interesting. They've achieved space travel. Barely, High General. They have a few small colonies on nearby planets and moons, but their technology is at least 100 cycles behind ours. Their weapons are primitive, and their ships are slow and poorly armored. Dak smiled, showing sharp teeth. Perfect. The Emperor will be pleased with such an easy conquest. Prepare a diplomatic ship. I want to see these humans myself before we conquer them. 3 days later, Dak's diplomatic vessel arrived at Earth's orbital station. The humans sent representatives from their United Earth government. The Talon Empire had seen such unified planetary governments before. They always fell quickly when faced with superior might. The human delegation was led by Commander Han, a small female with short black hair and a stern expression. She welcomed the Talons with formal words and gestures of peace. We welcome the Talon Empire to Earth space and hope this marks the beginning of friendship between our peoples, Han said through a translation device. Dak responded with practiced diplomacy. The Talon Empire is pleased to meet new civilizations. We have much to share and discuss. Behind his polite words, Dak was studying everything. The construction of the station, the weapons carried by the guards, the communication technology. Everything confirmed what the scouts had reported. Humans were far behind Talon technology. Their station was built of simple metals, not the advanced composites used by the Talons. Their weapons were basic projectile and energy types, nothing like the quantum disruptors his guards carried. The meetings continued for 3 days. The humans were eager to establish trade routes and exchange cultural information. They spoke of peace and cooperation, showing no awareness that they were being sized up for conquest. On the 4th day, Commander Rock, one of Dak's subordinates, took a small scout ship to examine a human outpost near the gas giant they called Jupiter. The outpost was mining resources from the planet's moons. The humans at the outpost became nervous when the Talon ship approached. They sent warning messages, asking the Talons to keep their distance from sensitive equipment. Rock, known for his quick temper, took this as an insult. How dare these primitives give orders to a Talon commander? Rock snarled. He fired a warning shot near the outpost. The humans responded by activating defensive shields. Rock interpreted this as an aggressive act. Without authorization, he opened fire with his ship's main weapons, destroying the outpost and killing all 53 humans stationed there. When news reached Earth, Commander Han confronted Dak immediately. Your ships have attacked an unarmed research station. This is an act of war. Han's face was flushed with anger and grief. Dak, while displeased with Rock's lack of discipline, saw no reason to apologize. A regrettable misunderstanding. My officer believed your outpost was preparing to attack. That's absurd. It was clearly marked as a scientific installation. We demand justice for this unprovoked attack. Dak returned to his ship that evening and contacted the Talon High Command. The humans are weak but growing troublesome. They demand punishment for Commander Rock and compensation for their lost outpost. The Emperor's representative, a stern-faced Talon with battle scars across his snout, laughed. Are they threatening us? How amusing. They've sent dozens of messages pleading for peaceful resolution. They claim they don't want war but insist on justice for the incident. A species that begs for peace when blood has been spilled is a species ready for conquest, the representative said. You are authorized to proceed with full invasion. The Talon Empire will add Earth to its territories. Dak called his officers together. He pulled up the holographic map of the Sol system and marked Earth with the red symbol used for invasion targets. Prepare the fleet. I want every available warship assembled within 10 days. We will take this system quickly and efficiently. Commander Lim, his strategic officer, reviewed the human defense capabilities. They have perhaps 200 combat-capable ships, mostly within their inner system. Their weapons are limited to basic energy beams and projectiles. Their largest ship is approximately 1/5 the size of our smallest destroyer. Dak nodded, pleased. And we will bring 10,000 ships. This will be remembered as one of the easiest conquests in Talon history. As the Talon diplomatic ship left Earth orbit, the humans continued sending messages, alternating between demands for justice and pleas for peaceful resolution. Listen to them beg, said Commander Tak, Dak's communications officer. They know they cannot stand against us. Dak watched Earth growing smaller on the view screen. They sensed their doom. Every species does when the Talon Empire sets its sights on them. He turned to his command crew, his voice filled with confidence. These humans will be conquered within a standard cycle. Their technology is primitive, their ships few in number. This will be nothing more than a training exercise for our younger officers. None of the Talons noticed the small, unmarked probe that followed their ship as it left the system, recording everything and transmitting data back to Earth on channels the Talons had not detected. Back on Earth, in a facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, technicians received the data and prepared to activate humanity's best-kept secret, a weapon that had been developed not for conquest, but for a day they had always feared would come. 10,000 Talon warships gathered at the assembly point just beyond Pluto's orbit. The ships formed a perfect three-dimensional grid, their black hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. From the smallest scout ship to the massive dreadnoughts, all bore the Empire's emblem, a striking bird with claws extended. General Dak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Emperor's Talon, admiring the display of military might. This was the largest fleet ever assembled in Talon history, a testament to his influence and the Empire's power. Magnificent, isn't it? Dak said to Commander Lim, who stood beside him. Every military vessel we could gather from across 6 sectors. Lim nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The formation is perfect, General. Each ship is positioned optimally for the advance into the human system. The Emperor himself will be watching our conquest, Dak said, his chest swelling with pride. This will be remembered as the day we brought these humans to their knees with minimal effort. On the command deck below them, tactical officers monitored communications and sensor data from across the fleet. A young officer looked up from his station with a confused expression. General, we're detecting a single ship approaching from the inner system, the officer reported. Dak turned, his brow ridges lifting in surprise. A single ship? Are you certain? Yes, General. Just one vessel, moving at high speed toward our position. Dak laughed, a harsh sound that made several junior officers flinch. They send one ship against our armada. Perhaps they're coming to surrender formally. The main view screen activated, showing a sleek vessel unlike any the Talons had seen before. It was smaller than their mid-sized cruisers, but had a distinctive design, smooth curves instead of the angular shapes favored by most spacefaring races. It glowed with a faint blue light that seemed to pulse rhythmically. That's not one of the ship designs our scouts reported, Lim observed, leaning forward to study the image. It must be new. The sensor officer called out, General, the human vessel is emitting unusual energy patterns. Our computers can't identify the technology. Dak waved a dismissive hand. Probably some desperate last-minute invention. Scan it thoroughly for weaknesses. Another officer spoke up. The ship identifies itself as the Phoenix. Their captain is requesting direct communication with you, General. Put them on screen, Dak ordered, straightening his ceremonial armor. Let's hear what excuse they offer before their defeat. The view screen shifted to show a human female with short black hair and clear, determined eyes. She wore a simple dark uniform with minimal insignia. "I am Captain Jin of the Earth vessel Phoenix," she said, her voice calm and measured. "I've been authorized to address you directly, General Dak." Dak smiled with cold amusement. "Captain Jin, I'm curious why your government has sent a single ship to face 10,000. Is this a suicide mission, or have you come to discuss terms of surrender?" Jin's expression remained unchanged. "Neither, General. I've come to ask once more that you reconsider your invasion plans. Earth has no quarrel with the Talon Empire. The destruction of our outpost was a misunderstanding that can be resolved diplomatically." "Diplomacy ended when your people made demands after a minor incident," Dak replied. "The Talon Empire does not negotiate from a position of weakness, and you, Captain, are very weak indeed." Jin's eyes narrowed slightly. "Numbers aren't everything, General. The Phoenix may be just one ship, but it represents humanity's true technological capability. What you've seen of our civilization so far has been incomplete." For a brief moment, Dak felt a flicker of uncertainty. There was something in the human's confidence that seemed misplaced for someone facing such overwhelming odds. "Sensor report, General," the officer called out. "The Phoenix is generating energy readings that are off our measurement scales. The power signature is unlike anything in our database." Commander Lim moved to the sensor station, studying the readings with growing concern. "General, I recommend caution. These readings suggest technology far beyond what our intelligence indicated humans possess." Dak hesitated, then shook his head firmly. "No, this is clearly a bluff. One ship cannot stand against 10,000, regardless of its technology." He turned back to the view screen. "Your bravery is noted, Captain Jin, but misplaced. You have one final opportunity to surrender before we destroy your vessel and proceed to Earth." Jin sighed, a look of genuine regret crossing her face. "I was afraid you would say that. For the record, General, we tried to avoid this conflict." The communication ended abruptly. "All ships, battle formation," Dak ordered. "Surround the human vessel and prepare to fire on my command." The massive Talon fleet began to move with precision, thousands of ships adjusting their positions to encircle the lone Phoenix. Weapons charged across the fleet, targeting systems locked onto the small human vessel. On the tactical display, the Phoenix remained stationary, seemingly unconcerned by the overwhelming force converging on it. "They're not even attempting evasive maneuvers," Lim observed. "Either their captain is frozen with fear, or what, Commander?" Dak asked sharply. Lim met his gaze. "Or they know something we don't." A junior officer interrupted. "General, we're detecting energy buildup in the Phoenix. They appear to be activating some kind of system." "Weapons ready across all ships, General," reported the tactical officer. Dak stared at the image of the Phoenix, still bothered by Jin's confidence. Something felt wrong, but he had come too far to show hesitation now. "All ships, open fire," he commanded. Thousands of energy beams and projectiles streaked across space toward the Phoenix. The bridge crew of the Emperor's Talon watched intently, expecting to see the human ship vaporized instantly. Instead, the Phoenix began to glow more intensely. A sphere of shimmering blue energy expanded outward from the ship just as the first Talon weapons reached it. The weapons fire simply vanished. There was no explosion, no impact. The energy beams and projectiles disappeared upon contact with the blue sphere. Dak stood frozen, staring at the impossible sight before him. "What just happened?" he demanded. "Where did our weapons fire go?" Before anyone could answer, the Phoenix began to move, not with conventional engines, but with a strange rippling motion, as if folding space itself. In an instant, it disappeared from its position and reappeared in the middle of the Talon formation. The blue sphere around it pulsed once, twice, 3 times, and the battle for Earth truly began. The Phoenix hung motionless in space, a small silver shape against the vast blackness, surrounded by the enormous Talon fleet. Captain Jin sat in her command chair, her face calm despite the 10,000 enemy warships that filled every sensor screen. "Open a channel to the Talon flagship," Jin ordered. Her communications officer nodded. "Channel open, Captain." Jin straightened in her chair. "This is your final opportunity to withdraw," she announced, her voice steady and clear. "We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend our world." On the main screen, General Dak's scaled face appeared. He looked amused, his lips curling into what passed for a smile among his species. "Your courage is admirable, Captain Jin, but misplaced," Dak replied. "One ship cannot stand against 10,000, not even your mysterious vessel." Jin sighed. She had truly hoped to avoid bloodshed. "You leave us no choice, General. Remember that we tried peace first." She signaled her officer to end the transmission. The bridge fell silent as Jin looked at each of her crew members. They had trained for years for this moment, but theory was different from reality. They were about to face an enemy fleet that outnumbered them 10,000 to 1. "All stations, report," Jin said. "Defensive systems ready," reported Security Officer Kwan. "Nova system fully charged and operational," added Chief Engineer Ju. Jin nodded. "Begin defensive field activation. Prepare Nova system for sequential targeting." The Phoenix began to glow with a soft blue light as its defensive field came online. This was not a simple energy shield like those used by the Talons and other species. It was a quantum field that existed partially outside normal spacetime. On the Talon flagship, General Dak watched the blue glow with mild curiosity. "Some type of shield," he noted to Commander Lim. "Interesting color, but irrelevant. Begin the attack. Destroy this annoying insect." Lim relayed the orders. The first wave of Talon ships, nearly 1,000 strong, opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams and projectiles streaked across space toward the Phoenix. But instead of exploding on impact, the weapon's fire simply vanished upon touching the blue field. It was as if the attacks were being swallowed by the glow itself. "What just happened?" Dak demanded, leaning forward in his chair. "Unknown, General," replied the weapons officer. "Our sensors indicate the weapon's fire disappeared. Not deflected, not absorbed, just gone." Inside the Phoenix, Jin nodded to Chief Engineer Ju. "Activate the Nova system. Target the first wave only." Ju pressed his palm against a glowing panel. "Nova system active. Targeting first wave ships." The Phoenix pulsed once, a ripple of energy spreading outward from its core. To outside observers, nothing seemed to happen for several seconds. Then, one by one, Talon ships began to break apart. Not with explosions or fire, but as if they were being pulled inside out. Hull plates bent inward, structures collapsed, and entire vessels imploded upon themselves. On his flagship, Dak stood in shock as the tactical display showed ship after ship winking out of existence. Not tens, not hundreds, but close to 1,000 ships disappearing in less than a minute. "What is happening?" he roared. "What weapon is this?" The science officer's voice shook as he replied, "General, the human ship appears to be creating some kind of spatial distortion within our vessels. It's as if space itself is being warped inside our ships, crushing them from within." "Impossible." Dak slammed his fist on the console. "No species has that technology." "The humans apparently do," Commander Lim said quietly. Dak snarled, "All remaining ships, concentrate fire. Maximum power. Destroy that vessel now." 9,000 Talon ships opened fire simultaneously, creating a dazzling web of energy that converged on the Phoenix. The blue field around the human ship brightened, pulsing as it encountered the massive barrage. But still, the weapon's fire vanished upon contact. The Phoenix remained untouched. Then something even more unnerving happened. The human ship simply disappeared. "Where did it go?" Dak shouted. "It just vanished from sensors," the tactical officer reported, frantically scanning. "There," Commander Lim pointed to a new reading. "It's inside our formation. How did it? Before she could finish, the Phoenix pulsed again. This time, nearly 2,000 Talon ships collapsed in on themselves, metal and crews crushed by the impossible physics being manipulated by the human vessel. Then the Phoenix disappeared again, reappearing in a different section of the Talon formation. Another pulse, another 1,000 ships gone. It's teleporting. A junior officer cried out in panic. That's not possible, Dak whispered, but his words lacked conviction as he watched his mighty fleet being systematically destroyed. The Phoenix continued its deadly dance, appearing and disappearing across the battlefield, each appearance marked by the destruction of hundreds or thousands of Talon ships. It moved not as ships were meant to move, but as if it could step outside normal space and re-enter wherever it chose. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Captain Jin watched the tactical display with grim determination. She took no joy in the killing, but the Talons had left them no choice. Nova system at 70% capacity, reported Engineer Ju. Still functioning within parameters. Continue targeting their combat vessels, Jin ordered. Spare any ships that appear to be medical or civilian in nature. The Phoenix blinked out again, reappearing near the heart of the remaining Talon formation. Another pulse, another wave of destruction. On his flagship, Dak watched in horror as his grand fleet was reduced to scattered groups of survivors. In less than 15 minutes, over 7,000 ships had been destroyed. Not damaged, not disabled, completely destroyed, crushed from within by forces he couldn't understand. Order a retreat, Lim urged him. We must save what ships we can. Dak couldn't speak. His mandibles worked soundlessly as he stared at the tactical display. This was impossible. One ship could not defeat 10,000. And yet, the Phoenix appeared directly in front of the Emperor's Talon, so close that Dak could see it clearly through the view screen. It hung there, its blue field pulsing gently, like a heartbeat. A communication request came through. With a shaking hand, Dak accepted it. Captain Jin's face appeared on screen. She looked tired but resolute. General Dak, she said simply, your fleet is defeated. Will you now discuss peace? The words echoed in Dak's mind as he stared at the impossible human who had destroyed his invincible armada with a single ship. The Emperor's Talon drifted silently through space. Its main engines were dead. Life support systems operated on emergency power. The once proud flagship of the Talon Empire was now just another wounded vessel among the scattered survivors of what had been the greatest fleet in Talon history. General Dak stood motionless before the main view screen. His uniform was torn from when he had been thrown across the bridge during the attack. A thin line of blue blood trickled from a cut above his eye, but he made no move to wipe it away. His attention was fixed on the devastating scene outside, where 10,000 warships had once formed a perfect battle formation. Now only debris and broken vessels remained. The wreckage of Talon ships stretched as far as sensors could detect. Twisted metal, shattered hull plates, and frozen bodies floated in the vacuum of space. Commander Lim approached cautiously. Her right arm hung uselessly at her side, broken during the battle. Status report, Commander, Dak said, his voice hollow. Lim's normally confident demeanor was gone. We've received reports from all surviving ships, General. The losses are severe. Over 9,000 vessels destroyed. Most of the survivors are heavily damaged. 9,000. Dak repeated, the number seeming unreal. In less than 1 hour. 53 minutes. To be precise, Lim confirmed. We've never seen anything like this in all of Talon military history. A junior officer called out from his damaged console. General, we're receiving a transmission from the human ship. Dak turned slowly. The Phoenix was visible in the distance, the blue glow around it now gentle and steady. It appeared completely undamaged, as if it had just left space dock rather than fought a battle against thousands of warships. Put it on screen, Dak ordered. Captain Jin's face appeared. She looked calm, with no trace of the bloodlust or triumph that Talon warriors would display after such a victory. General Dak, Jin said, I see your flagship survived. Are you injured? The question surprised Dak. Why would an enemy care about his well-being after such a battle? I live, he replied stiffly, unlike thousands of my warriors. Jin nodded solemnly. This battle was unnecessary, General. We tried to explain during our diplomatic meetings that we focus our resources differently than you do. What are you talking about? Dak demanded, anger briefly overcoming his shock. Your scouts observed our civilian technology and our standard defense forces, Jin explained. Based on those observations, you classified us as primitive. That was your first mistake. Jin touched a control, and the view screen split to show images of Earth cities, transportation systems, and everyday technology. They looked simple compared to Talon equivalents. Humans made a choice centuries ago, Jin continued. Instead of developing thousands of warships and conquering our neighbors, we focused our best minds on specific technologies: quantum physics, space-time manipulation, energy systems beyond conventional understanding. Dak stared at the images, beginning to understand the catastrophic error in Talon intelligence. The Phoenix is not one of many, Jin said. It's our only vessel of its kind. We put the resources that might have built thousands of conventional ships into creating one perfect defensive system. How? Dak whispered, his eyes moving from the view screen to the floating debris of his fleet. How could one ship do this? Quality over quantity, General, Jin replied simply. Your ships use conventional propulsion. Ours manipulates space-time itself. Your weapons fire energy. Ours creates quantum rifts that bypass shields entirely. Dak sank slowly into his command chair, the full weight of his failure crushing down on him. The Talon Empire had never encountered a species that approached warfare in this way. They had always equated military might with numbers: more ships, more weapons, more warriors. What happens now? He asked. Will you destroy Earth's enemies with the same efficiency you destroyed my fleet? Jin shook her head. The Phoenix is a defensive weapon, General. We built it hoping we would never need to use it. We have no interest in conquering other worlds or expanding through military force. I don't understand, Dak admitted. With such power, you could rule the galaxy. That's the difference between our peoples, Jin said. We don't want to rule anyone but ourselves. A new transmission came through on a Talon military frequency. Commander Lim checked it and turned to Dak with wide eyes. General, the Emperor is demanding a report. He has seen the battle data transmitted by our long-range communications. Dak closed his eyes briefly. The Emperor would not accept this failure. His career was over, at minimum. His life might be as well. Captain Jin, Dak said, opening his eyes. What are your terms? We wish to establish a genuine peace, Jin replied. Not based on fear or domination, but on mutual respect. We request reparations for our destroyed outpost and formal recognition of Earth space as sovereign territory. And if we refuse? Jin's expression remained neutral. We have demonstrated what one of our ships can do. We would prefer not to build more. The threat was clear, yet delivered without aggression. Dak realized that the humans had shown remarkable restraint. The Phoenix could have destroyed his flagship. It could have continued to Earth and attacked the Talon homeworld. Instead, they were offering peace. I request permission to come aboard your vessel, Dak said finally. I wish to see this technology for myself before I report to my Emperor. Jin nodded. Permission granted. A shuttle will bring you across. As the transmission ended, Commander Lim approached Dak. General, is this wise? The humans could take you prisoner. If they wanted prisoners, they could have captured our entire fleet, Dak replied. No, Commander. I must understand what happened here today. The future of the Talon Empire may depend on it. An hour later, Dak stepped through the airlock onto the Phoenix. The interior was nothing like Talon ships. Instead of the utilitarian, harsh metal corridors he expected, the Phoenix's passages were smooth and curved, with soft lighting that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Captain Jin greeted him personally. Welcome aboard, General. I'll show you to our engine room first. I think you'll find it enlightening." As they walked through the ship, Dak noticed how few crew members he saw. "Your ship is understaffed." "No," Jin replied. "The Phoenix requires only 27 crew members to operate at full capacity. Much of the ship functions autonomously." Dak's mandibles clicked in surprise. A Talon vessel of comparable size would need at least 200 warriors. When they reached the engine room, Dak stopped in the doorway, unable to process what he was seeing. Where he expected to find massive power cores and conventional propulsion systems, there was instead a single glowing sphere suspended in the center of the room. It pulsed with colors that seemed to shift between dimensions, some of which Dak couldn't even name. "This is the heart of the Nova system," Jin explained. "It doesn't just power our ship, it exists partially outside normal spacetime." For the first time in his military career, General Dak of the mighty Talon Empire knew true awe and true fear. General Dak stood at the large window, looking out at the city of New Seoul on Earth. Tall buildings reached toward the sky, connected by transport tubes where vehicles moved quickly in all directions. Parks filled with trees and plants created green spaces between the buildings. It was beautiful in a way that surprised him. 6 months had passed since the battle that destroyed his fleet. 6 months since he had surrendered to Captain Jin and the Phoenix. He had expected execution, or at least a harsh imprisonment. Instead, the humans had treated him with respect. "Enjoying the view, General?" asked Minister Yu, who had been assigned as Dak's guide during his stay on Earth. "Your cities are different from ours," Dak replied. "Talon cities are built for military efficiency. Yours seem designed for living." Yu smiled. "That's an interesting observation. Would you like to see more today?" Dak nodded. Each day, the humans showed him another aspect of their civilization. He had visited hospitals with medical technology far beyond anything in the Talon Empire. He had seen farms that produced food without harming the land. He had toured power plants that generated clean energy using methods the Talons had never discovered. Today, they visited a research facility where scientists worked on new technologies. "This is where the Nova system was developed," Yu explained as they entered a large laboratory. "It took our scientists nearly 70 years to perfect it." Dak watched researchers working at stations around the room. "Why did you put so much effort into one weapon system instead of building a fleet?" An older human approached them. His white hair and lined face showed his age, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "Because we learned from our history," the man said. "I'm Professor Cho, lead designer of the Phoenix." Dak bowed his head in respect. "You created the weapon that defeated 10,000 ships." "I created a defense system," Cho corrected gently. "There's an important difference. 300 years ago, humans fought terrible wars against each other. We nearly destroyed our planet with weapons and pollution." He led Dak to a display showing Earth's history, images of wars, environmental destruction, and suffering. "We realized we had to change or die," Cho continued. "So we made different choices. We focused on healing our world, developing clean energy, and improving life for all humans. When we reached space, we decided not to repeat our mistakes." "But you still built the Phoenix," Dak noted. "We hoped never to use it," Cho said. "But we weren't naive. We knew there were other species in the galaxy who might not share our peaceful intentions." Dak thought about this as they continued their tour. In the following weeks, he learned more about how humans approach technology and resources. They didn't consider military strength as the primary measure of civilization. Instead, they valued sustainability, quality of life, and knowledge. 3 months later, representatives from the Talon Empire arrived on Earth to discuss peace terms. Dak, who had communicated regularly with the new Talon leadership, served as a mediator. In the Grand Meeting Hall, Dak stood between the human delegation led by Captain Jin and United Earth President Min, and the Talon delegation led by High Commander Sor. "The Talon Empire recognizes the sovereignty of Earth and all human colonies," Sor stated, reading from the formal agreement. We seek peaceful relations and mutual exchange of knowledge in non-military fields. President Min nodded. Earth welcomes this new beginning between our peoples. We have much to learn from each other. After the formal signing, Captain Jin approached Dak. You've done something remarkable, General. Few would have had the courage to advocate for peace after such a defeat. Dak looked at his former enemy, now someone he considered a wise colleague. I simply told my people the truth. The old ways of thinking about power and conquest must change. The galaxy is more complex than we understood. What will you do now? Jin asked. The Emperor has assigned me a new role, Dak replied. I will serve as ambassador not only to Earth but to other species as well. My task is to share what I've learned here. 5 years passed. The peace between humans and Talons held strong. Trade routes were established. Scientists from both species collaborated on new technologies. Dak traveled throughout the galaxy, meeting with other civilizations and sharing the story of the battle that changed everything. On the 5th anniversary of the peace treaty, representatives from 27 species gathered on a neutral space station for a galactic conference. Dak, now respected as a wise diplomat rather than a military leader, was invited to give the opening address. He stood before the diverse gathering. Beings with scales, fur, tentacles, and forms that defied easy description. All had come to discuss cooperation rather than conflict. 10,000 ships, Dak began, his voice carrying across the chamber. That was the size of the fleet I led against Earth. 10,000 warships against one. By any traditional measure, our victory should have been certain. The audience was silent, captivated by the story most had heard but few truly understood. I lost 9,000 ships in less than 1 hour, Dak continued. Not because humans had superior numbers or bigger weapons, but because they approached technology and defense from a perspective we had never considered. He activated a holographic display showing the Phoenix alongside a Talon dreadnought. The difference in size was striking. The humans taught me that true power comes not from having more, but from thinking differently. They devoted centuries to developing one perfect system rather than thousands of adequate ones. Dak looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of military leaders from species known for their aggressive expansionism. Before you consider conquest, remember this lesson that cost my people dearly. Numbers mean nothing if you don't understand what you're counting. One ship, one idea, one approach can change everything if it's the right one. As Dak concluded his speech, the gathered representatives rose in applause. Among them stood Captain Jin, now Admiral Jin, who caught Dak's eye and nodded in respect. That evening, Dak stood at a viewport, looking out at the stars. Admiral Jin joined him. Your speech was powerful, she said. Do you think they understood? Some did, Dak replied. Others will need to learn as I did. Jin smiled. Through wisdom rather than war, I hope. As do I, Dak said, thinking of the devastation he had witnessed. The Phoenix never left Earth orbit after our battle, did it? No, Jin confirmed. It remains our only vessel of its kind. One is enough, Dak said, when it represents the right idea. Together, the human admiral and the Talon ambassador watched the stars, guardians of a peace forged in the aftermath of an impossible battle. The end.